The date was September 6, 2017. It was a Wednesday, and I had been in school all morning. Fortunately, the lecture had ended early, and rather than staying and working on my homework, I decided to leave class early. On any other day, I would have immediately gone to my creative nonfiction class. But the class had gone on a field trip that day. I would have liked to go on the field trip, however, I was fairly broke and couldn't even spare the $15 required for the trip. I also had complications with needing to be home in Temecula, California, over an hour away. The alternative to going on the field trip was to do something out of our comfort zones and write about it, and of course I thought to myself, how the hell am I supposed to go about doing that? If I'm not at work, which I always am, then I'm at school or doing homework, which doesn't give me a whole lot of time to be completely adventurous. Little did I know that fate had unexpected plans for me that very night. Recently, a good friend of mine named Jacob had moved into my house in the spare guest room with his younger brother Chris, whom he had been taking care of most of their life. Jacob and I had met when he started working at the same McDonald's I worked at, and we quickly became great friends. After my commute home from school, I arrived at the house only to find that Jacob had gone to work and Chris accidentally overslept and stayed home from school. I let him be and proceeded to set up my work area so that I can begin working on some homework. It wasn't long before I received a text message from another dear friend of mine, Chase. Chase had been one of my best friends since junior year of high school, and we became so close that I even grew to call him a brother. He worked at an airport and would mainly load people's luggage into airliners, but in his time off he would fly small single-engine airplanes in order to build hours towards becoming an airline pilot. He asked if Jacob, Chris, and I wanted to go out to dinner that night. I told him yes, but we would have to wait until Jacob got off of work in a couple of hours. After texting Jacob about the dinner plans for the night, I went to go pick up Chase from a small airport located in Temecula. I got about halfway there when I received a call from Chase. "Hey man, I just landed," he said. "Hey, I'm gonna pick you up right now and then we'll go get dinner with the guys," I said over the phone. "Well, why don't you just bring Jacob and Chris here?" This confused me. I didn't know what he meant by bringing them to a tiny airport. "Wait a minute. Did you want to fly somewhere to eat?" I asked, sounding a little bit irritated. "Yeah," he said. "Hang on while I see if the guys are okay with that." I hung up the phone and proceeded to call Jacob. After getting the all clear from him, I turned around so that I could go home and get Chris and some stuff together. Chase had a tendency to make super last-minute plans, and I'm not a big fan of last-minute plans. So that at this point, I was a little irritated. It made me really uncomfortable whenever I had to go somewhere or do something without any warning. I got home and me and Chris waited for Jacob to get off of work, and then we headed over to the airport. When we finally got to the airport, Chase was waiting for us in the front area of the building. We hugged because we hadn't seen each other in a while, and then Chase asked us, "So, where do you want to go to eat? We could go to Big Bear, or Santa Monica, or Catalina Island." We were all pretty indifferent and hungry, so it took us a while to make a decision because nobody knew really where we should go. We settled on flying to Santa Monica Airport and then just taking an Uber to the In-N-Out over by LAX. With our decision made, we all finally decided it was time to hop in the plane. After waiting for Chase to do all the necessary procedures before taking off, we finally all got onto the plane. Jacob and Chris sat in the back two seats while I rode shotgun in front with Chase. We began to taxi to the runway, and before we knew it, we had taken off. We began slowly ascending over Temecula. Jacob, Chris, and I all began to take photos and Snapchats of the experience. We all quoted inside jokes and enjoyed the view for the majority of the ride. At one point, Chase ran me through how to steer the plane, and for about a minute, I started steering it and trying not to kill us all. It wasn't long before I looked right at him and said, "I forgot how to go up and down, and I'm really uncomfortable now." He laughed and took control of the plane back. Later, we landed and got our food. On the way back, I was looking out the window and I realized something. I tapped on Chase's seat and I said, "I think I found something to write about for my homework this week." And that's the story of how I hopped on a plane to LA just to eat In-N-Out with my best friend.